The great Teraleak has occurred. Something like over a terabyte of data was just stolen or leaked from Game Freak. That is illegal. Shame, shame. You shouldn't do that. But also thank you. It includes just a ton of concept art, beta art, reference sheets, lore sheets, unused sprites, unused music, plot layouts, and more for just about every generation. Even Gen 10, but I won't cover that because spoilers. I kind of root of them to just, hey, here's the entire plot of the current anime and the Gen 10 anime. I will, however, cover the design, lore, and inspirational origins of the unused beta Pokemon, though. That's gonna take some time, however. Today, I want to talk about this. You know that scene that plays at the Sinjoh Ruins where Arceus creates an egg for you containing either Giratina, Palkia, or Dialga? This symbol also appears on the floor when you battle Arceus in Legends Arceus. It's very important to the lore of this Pokemon, so fans, myself included, have long speculated about the meaning behind this symbol. It was always thought to be a creation symbol of sorts, so each circle likely represents various godlike legendary Pokemon. Arceus in the center, the creation trio all around it, surrounded by the Lake Guardians just a little further, and then as the foundation for the Earth itself, there's Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, the creators of the land, sea, and air, and so on and so forth. But within these leaks, we now have the actual reference sheet, the design document for this symbol, which first of all does confirm that the circles represent different Pokemon, and most of the Pokemon fans speculated about them being were correct, albeit not always in the exact right position. This one by Dark Giratina on Reddit 11 years ago was widely considered the most likely, though I've always questioned the inclusion of Mewtwo. Mewtwo is a very recent clone, it shouldn't be involved with... Anyway, so this is the official design sheet for it, and yes, it's in Japanese and using shortened beta names for some Pokemon, but nothing we can't handle. First off, you'll notice that the final version, the one we actually see in-game, has 3 circles around the center circle instead of just 2. Could be that this was made before they decided to include Giratina, because yes, the sheet confirms that the middle circles are the creation trio who banished Giratina and thus may want to try to cover up its existence, but I guess they later on realized they should include it, especially since this symbol appears after the events of Platinum, so you already know about Giratina. That's you, the player, not you, the protagonist. They are different people. One step out from here, we have a minor difference from the fan speculation. Rather than the Lake Guardians being in the second circle and the super ancient Pokemon, sometimes called the Weather Trio, being in the first triangle, it's the other way around. And I think here's why. The super ancient Pokemon are claimed to have created the rest of the world, right? Where would the Lake Guardians reside if there were no lakes for them yet? And if the point of the Lake Guardians is to create knowledge, emotion, and willpower in humans, where would the humans be if there was no land, sea, or air yet? The further out from the circle we get, the further into creation, I suppose, it symbolizes, which tends to make sense. You'd have your center pillar in the middle, and then their power disperses out. And so, of course, the super ancient Pokemon have to be closer to the center. And this doubly works because now the super ancient Pokemon responsible for shaping the globe are now in a circle. Like a globe, like a sphere. And the Lake Guardians are in a triangle, and a long time ago, before I was doing Pokemon full-time, I speculated that the Lake Guardians are vaguely inspired by the Triforce. Of course, I don't mean in lore. I'm not saying like Zelda universe and Pokemon universe are the same. I'm just saying they pull from the same roots. At the corners of the second triangle, we get 3 more circles, each with 3 smaller circles labeled servant gods around the central one, the one they serve. While the exact placements of the Pokemon are shifted in the fan speculation, the Pokemon themselves are all correct. Regigigas and the Regi Trio, Lugia and the legendary birds, and Ho-Oh with the legendary beasts. Entering into speculation mode, the Lake Guardian they are beside relates to them as well, almost as opposites. Mesprit is the Pokemon of emotion, which golems and constructs don't have. So boom, Regis. Uxie or Uxie or Uxie is the Pokemon of knowledge, and while Ho-Oh itself could be considered wise due to its age, beasts are generally regarded as beastly. You know? Acting on instinct rather than intellect. Ignore the Entei movie, it was an illusion created by the unknown, that's not a real Entei. Azelf is the Pokemon of willpower, or in its original Japanese, the god of will, or intent, or volition, or purpose, wish, God's will. Willpower is a good translation, but it loses some of the nuance. Nuance you may need here. Did it take the god's will to truly link these Pokemon together? In the games, these birds have like nothing to do with Lugia, that's an anime thing. Where they actually turned against Lugia too, their supposed ruler/master. They were going against God's will, and against their purpose, as it were, and it took a boost of willpower for Lugia to set things straight finally. That is just speculative though. Them being placed this way could also just be because. Back to the confirmed positions. The big circle includes the mythical Pokemon of Gen 1 and 2, Mew and Celebi, right beside each other. Fitting. Below them, the mythicals of Gen 3, Jirachi and Deoxys, which leaves the two on the left, which are using beta and or code names. It's very likely that the names and designs of the Pokemon themselves for Gen 4 weren't finished at the time of this document's creation. Though, given this is a Gen 4 design document, it would make sense for those two to be from Gen 4. Specifically, Gen 4 mythical Pokemon, because the rest in this circle are mythical. So there's a few options. Darkrai, Shaman, Manaphy, and Fione if you count it. Even Pokemon can't decide. The code names here are Birthly and Smiley. Birthly makes me think of Manaphy right away, given that it's the only mythical Pokemon able to lay an egg, and that's sort of its whole deal. And many of its Pokedex entries talk about how it is born and its birthplace. Smiley, then, is likely Shaman, the gratitude Pokemon, all about smiling and giving thanks. Happy good times, flowers, curing toxins. Boy, I sure am grateful for all the good things in life. Smile, smile. Look at its face. That is a face of smiley thankfulness. Now this last circle. It is the big, like, yo, what? The thing that took me by surprise. The big inner circle contains non-legendary, non-mythical Pokemon. Yeah, the left, it's Dragonite, Gyarados, and Tyranitar, and the right, Metagross, but also Latios and Latios, so lesser legendaries can still be here. Notably though, pseudo-legendary is a completely fan-made term never used in any official capacity, so it's super cool to see these pseudo-legendaries here. Turns out they always did have something to do with the legendaries, though Gyarados is here too. This circle is listed as the supporting gods. They themselves seem to have nothing to do with creation itself, but their powers are used to support it. It seems more speculation will be necessary. But in the lower portion of the circle, we again find code and or beta names. Given that, like before, we have sections that are Gen 1 and 2 and Gen 3, it's likely this area is Gen 4, hence them not having their names figured out yet. Darb or Dabu, Son, and Gordon. I want a Pokemon just named Gordon. Gordon is my favorite. So Gen 4's pseudo-legendary is Garchomp, whose eventual Japanese name is Gaburias. I suppose you can kind of get Gordon to that, though maybe it's not the pseudo-legendary. Maybe it's Heatran. Gordon, the dawn of the go-round. Dabu or Darb sounds like dark, which is Darkrai's whole deal. Its eventual name is literally English dark followed by Japanese for dark. It is dark, dark. It's sort of like the dark side of the moon or the new moon, so it's fine to speculate that San would be the light side of the moon, which reflects sunlight. So it's Cresselia. All of this is speculative, of course. I'm sure those who know more than I will figure things out more. Perhaps further hidden in the more than a terabyte of data, there's other developer sheets that talk about names and how their names changed through the development process. But yes, I love this. I love this so much. The only weird thing here, though, is Gyarados. I suppose Gen 1 and 2 don't really have any other contenders for big, powerful, intimidating, dragonish Pokemon, now do they? Gyarados is later in the original Pokedex, and its base stats are close to the rest of the pseudo-legendaries, so I think it's just the best they could do with what they had. This big mystery stage circle was definitely not on Game Freak's mind when designing the original 151. But I wonder if it's fair to say that these pseudo-legendaries or supporting gods are like demigods, hence the high stats. Demigods are part human, part god. Think like Hercules, a totally mortal man with divinely god-given strength. A demigod. I don't know, but I have a feeling that we'll know a lot more soon as we continue diving through the dubious data. So subscribe and stay tuned. Pokemon lore and origins is what I've done on this channel for almost a decade now, and with your help that can continue. So subscribe, join, merch store. We have a sale going on right now, and only so many Snugooey left. Every Snugooey deserves a home, and to not have that happen to them from me anymore. Thanks for watching, and never stop using your noggin.